news starts right now.
Happening now, possibly the most powerful windstorm in years is rolling into western Washington right now.
Damage reports already coming in and thousands of people around Puget Sound without power. The wind is making travel treacherous as well. And get this, the worst of the storm is yet to come.
The KOMO forecast team is on alert right now, getting you prepared for the storm.
And we have a team of reporters spread out from the South Sound to the north end, covering the high winds and that soaking rain that's hitting us pretty hard. Let's start with KOMO's Denise Whitaker, live in Port Orchard. Denise, what's it looking like there?
It is a wet mess out here at Matt and Andrea Ziegler's house. Take a look for yourself. This is a giant tree that came down from the lot next door right into their house. The tree guy's already here right now trying to clean up this mess for them after the tree just crashed into the roof.
That's the hole in the attic.
That hole up on the second floor is not the only place a very tall tree crashed into Matt and Andrea Ziegler's house. It pierced the roof, split the rafters, knocked a light out of its socket, and cracked a lot of walls. Downstairs in the office, buckets and garbage cans now collect the rainwater that's pouring inside.
The house took quite a bit of damage because it hit pretty hard.
Andrea tells me it sounded like an earthquake to her. She was sleeping when it hit a little after 5 a.m.
You know, this is a tree we had planned on taking down this summer.
But they ran out of time and money, just completing a $30,000 remodel on their house. Not only did Matt want to take that tree out before this happened, he also had a premonition.
I envisioned a tree coming down, and I didn't know where or when it was going to come down, but 30 minutes later, my wife called and said, hey, there's a tree in our house.
And now they've got to deal with this mess. And now that you've seen the mess, I want to show you where it came from. The base of the tree. There is a stream running here along their property line. The water, since I've been here for an hour or two now, getting deeper and deeper, and the tree just saturated ground. This is unfortunately what we are likely to see more of as the day goes on, as we get more rain and those winds really kick up.
No. And we're pretty much seeing a traffic mess out on the roads, but let's tell you about State Route 104 at Hood Canal Bridge. It is now closed until further notice due to high winds. So if this is the area that you usually take to get across the bridge, definitely avoid it for the meantime. And if you're coming across Lake Washington, be extra careful. We're seeing lots of ways rip up along 520, also on I-90 as well. So far, both bridges are open, but definitely use caution and slow down with double hands on the wheel.
All right, well, we have our forecast team on this. Let's check in with Seth Wayne for what we can expect now and then into the afternoon.
All right, let's head right to it. And shortly after 11 a.m., we are picking up some very, very strong wind gusts, with the strongest of those winds coming in between noon and 4 p.m. I've highlighted a section near Sequim and Port Townsend, and this is going to stretch all the way through Everett, Edmonds, and Linwood. That this high wind warning now extended until 10 p.m. across the entire area through Seattle down to Tacoma and across to the Olympic Peninsula and our ocean beaches until 6 p.m. And this is the reason why you can see some of these peak wind gusts at 44 miles per hour in Mukilteo, Shelton at 40, Des Moines at 36, near Hood Canal, at that Hood Canal bridge that Paris was just speaking about, 36 mile per hour gusts, Camino Island at 35. Look at the sustained winds. We're at 20 in Seattle, 16 in Tacoma, 24 now in Bremerton, but gusting in Bremerton to close to 40 miles per hour, close to 50 mile per hour gusts in Everett. And friends, it's only going to get worse before it gets better near Everett as well as near Mukilteo. This is the reason why we're talking about this front coming through, dumping all of this rain. So it's a twofer. We've got this wind that I just spoke about that's going to continue all afternoon, but the heavy rain only making it worse. Shannon O'Donnell now, a part of the KOMO forecast team, is in the Weather Center with more on that side of the story.
Yeah, it's been a really soggy November. No question about that. We had that deluge on Saturday where it just rained from start to finish, with almost no time throughout the day on Saturday where it didn't rain at SeaTac. And now the rain has really picked up in intensity again. We've picked up more precipitation this month in half the month that we usually see through the entire month of November. So we're just plain waterlogged. And you can see on the radar picture the heaviest precipitation right now swinging right over the Pierce-King County line there. And it is coming down sideways because of these gusty winds. We have saturated ground up over the mountains. It's warmed considerably. We had all that snow yesterday. today. That wrapped up overnight as the snow level shot on up to about 6,000 feet, even close to 7,000 feet by the time the day is over. So now on top of all of that snow, we're seeing a lot of rain, 5 to 8 inches, if not a little bit more over the peaks through this storm this afternoon. That's going to lead to swollen rivers, faster runoff, and we already had so many of those high rivers over the weekend. They're going to be running even higher. Additionally, because the ground is so very saturated with heavy rain on tap for today, the land and the mudslide risk on the rise as well. Not to mention the fact that we're going to see loads of power outages and some downed trees as the winds continue to peak this afternoon. We'll talk more about some of the rivers that are now under a flood warning in just a little bit.
All right, Shan, thank you. And keep this in mind that this is not going to continue all week. Today, the stormiest of the next few days. I'll have that extended forecast for you coming up in just minutes.
Good enough, Seth. All right, let's talk about the wind now. If you're down at street level in Seattle and don't feel much of the wind, trust us, it is up there.
That's right. All you have to do is just go a few stories higher. And KOMO's Kale Thompson live on a rooftop of a building in South Lake Union where those winds definitely stronger, Kale.
Yeah, you can definitely feel them up here. I got to tell you, just about an hour ago, 10 o'clock, we were downstairs inside and you could hear the wind kind of whipping around the building. Go ahead, take a look here over the city from where we stand. You see all the cranes. Pick a crane, any crane, pick a flag on top, any flag, and you will see it is really whipping up there at the higher elevations. I'll show you some of the video that we shot this morning. Construction teams that I have been speaking with say they spent last night and sometime this morning making sure everything on those upper floors of exposed buildings is secured, but they were still at work as of about 9 o'clock, sliding windows into place at least one project downtown. In South Lake Union, fewer people than usual on the sidewalks. The area routinely bustling with Amazon workers looked a lot quieter to me this morning, and you can blame the weather. Most say they are tuned in and just taking it in stride.
I'm sure we'll be fine. I mean, it's not like there's gonna be like anything crazy, hopefully.
I keep hearing about it, but I also keep hearing about we're supposed to have a storm in the weekend and some other times, and nothing really materialized, so I'm not too worried about anything.
All right, so back out here live in South Lake Union. Take a look. You can actually see there are still crews at work, several stories up, exposed in the elements at this building just across from where we are. People at street level, look, don't be fooled. I can tell you I was down there earlier. It may feel a lot calmer, but trust me, the wind up here is blowing. I can tell you it feels certainly a lot stronger than it does down there. For now, we are live in South Lake Union. I'm Kel Thompson, KOMO News.
And the wind is a big part of the story this morning and into this afternoon, and we're seeing those winds pick up on the water as well.
KOMO's Lee Stoll has been actually riding the ferries all morning long. She joins us live with a look at that. Wow, I hope you're holding on tight.
Oh my gosh, guys, the wind really picked up here at about 2 minutes ago. I'm getting salt sprays right in the mouth. So we're on the ferry right now from Clinton over to Mukilteo. They've kept the cars back by about 2 to 3 lengths. My photographer is leaning into the wind to try and give you a shot of what we are seeing, and this isn't even the worst of it. Right now, the current and the wind are heading in the same direction, but that current is changing, and as soon as they're up against each other, it's going to cause very rough conditions later on this afternoon, and these ferries are unfortunately going to be caught right in the middle of it all. So let's tell you what we had earlier today as we've been riding these ferries all morning long. This is what it looked like as the winds started to build up to about 20 knots. That may not sound so fast, but that's actually the double average speed of most racing sailboats in competitions like America's Cup. Crews are swinging wide and then coasting with the current, trying to hit these slips. They're also using the island of Whidbey to act as a barrier against these winds. They're also widening the distance between the crossing boats for their own safety, because obviously we're the only ones out here right now. Now, I've looked at the schedule. Everything has been on time. The biggest delays have only been about 10 minutes. Now, take a look at there has been a lot of power outages on Whidbey as well, because these waves have been crashing over bulkheads. And back out here live, if my photographer can hold on, I've got my back to him right now just so I can stand. Again, the worst of it is still ahead. We are expecting the winds to pick up to about 35 knots at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Those are considered gale force winds. And again, with the tide shifting out here and going against those winds, if you have to take these ferries as part of your evening commute, expect a very rough ride. We are bouncing right now. The cars behind us on their tires bouncing as well. So we're pulling into Mukilteo here pretty quickly, but again, expect a very rough crossing this afternoon.
And I'm Molly Shen at the Como Live Desk. I want to give you an update on the power outages that we're dealing with right now, and bear with me because these numbers keep changing. Right now, Puget Sound Energy says it has more than 11,400 homes that are without power. Seattle City Light, these are the numbers that keep adjusting. They just fixed the outage that was in White Center, but right as they got those several thousand people up online, they let us know that they had an outage of about 2,900 people in Shoreline go out. So total for Seattle City Light right now, at least 5,000, probably higher. Snohomish County had told us about a couple thousand out in Gold Bar, 600 or so in Snohomish. But again, just a minute ago, let us know that they have another 1,600 customers out in Darrington. So as they get these outages fixed, more people end up losing power. Puget Sound Energy making sure people know that first they assess the damage, then they dispatch their crews to the priority responses, and they get the power back up. But it's a process they have to go through, and then power keeps going out again, and we haven't even hit the peak of the storm. So we'll keep tracking the numbers for you and let you know as they change.
That should certainly keep all of them busy here, at least throughout the day.
This is what they prepare for. All right, before we go to break, want to give you a live look outside down onto CenturyLink Field. The winds pushing the cameras around as we have seen all morning as we expect the brunt of the storm to move its way in. It is wet, it is windy, and we have you covered right here on Como News at 11 a.m.
As we welcome you back to Como News, another look at some of these peak wind gusts right now. Mukilteo, 44 miles per hour. That was just reported within the past hour. And do know that it is going to be a bit stronger as we make our way through the latter half of the afternoon and into the evening. Shelton at 40, Camino Island at 35. High wind warnings up till at least 4 p.m., 6 p.m. across a majority of the area, and 10 p.m. for you folks in Mukilteo.
All right, so let's get an update now on how things are going on the roads. We know it can be pretty treacherous out there with this blowing through. Washington State Patrol Trooper Mark Francis joining us live on the phone. Trooper Francis, are you there?
I am.
Well, you know, we've already seen a whole slew of accidents already on our roads, and we know it's getting wetter by the minute with more high winds. Any specific areas that are really problematic at this point here?
You know, in Snohomish County, it's been all over the board, state routes as well as the interstate. Something interesting, though, that we're seeing a lot of lost loads. So people need to realize with these high winds, they need to secure down their loads a little bit more as well.
And that feeds into the next question here. You know, things are only expected to get more intense, especially when it comes to the wind throughout this morning into the afternoon. What other tips do you have for drivers? What other things like their loads do they need to double check before they hit the roads?
You know, the big one with this winter weather is reduce your speed, increase your following distance. Another one is just be vigilant when you're driving. You never know when a tree limb's going to fall in front of you or when another object's going to be in the roadway in front of you. So just slow down and pay attention as you're driving.
All right, Trooper Francis, thanks for the update on that. You be safe out there as well, and we'll hopefully check in with you here throughout the afternoon.
Okay, thanks.
Well, let's get back here in the live desk because we've had a tree fall on a Metro bus and it caused an injury to the driver. In fact, can we take a look at Live 18 right now? And I'll show you some of these pictures. Our Lindsay Cohen just tweeted, and look at the damage to the front of that bus there. This happened in Shoreline. The bus was empty of passengers, but as I said, the driver was in the bus, and you can see that the tree just hit right there in the front, smashing in the windshield. They've gotten that driver onto the hospital now. Fortunately, the injuries are minor, and again, no passengers were there and hurt. And as you can see, they've got a tow truck hooked up to get that bus taken out of the way. It was at Greenwood Avenue North and Northwest Ennis Arden Way. King County Sheriff's Office investigating, but obviously we know that this all had to do with the weather. It's bringing down those trees into traffic and onto power lines. Back to you. Like a lot of us feared in the first place, well, it is wet, it is sloppy up at Snoqualmie Pass right now. The storm bringing with it a lot of rain. Now, this is GoPro video from one of our photojournalists as he went over the east side toward Vantage overnight. You see some of that snow there? Well, guess what? All of that, the 5 inches of snow that fell yesterday is not going to be sticking around. It'll be simply too warm for that. So if you do make the trip farther north, Mount Baker, that has plenty of snow to offer. They already have 2 feet at the base, and they plan to open on Thursday with at least 5 lifts open. Across the border in Whistler in British Columbia, that's also opening on Thursday, and the Big White Resort opened up last week. Stevens Pass is scheduled to open late this month.
Well, that Snow Force washout crews just shut down the North Cascades Highway a week earlier than last year. A 37-mile-long stretch now will be closed through the winter because of avalanche danger. The closure begins 14 miles east of New Halem on the west side and ends 22 miles west of Winthrop below Washington Pass. That highway will not reopen until sometime about early May. One group of homeowners in Pacific County will be keeping a very close eye on this windstorm. They know it's just a matter of time until more of those homes there fall into the surf at Washaway Beach. Just a year ago, several homes fell as winds and waves battered the ground below. Now, the rest of those homeowners are just watching and waiting.
Just riding out the storm, waiting for, the erosion to take the house. Mother Nature's going to take it and just have to live with it.
Homeowners now are just hoping it will last at least one more year. We'll have to see what happens. Take another look outside. It certainly looks gloomy as the winds continue to pick up. We're really getting drenched in the soaker here as we take a look from our Queen Anne Tower cam down onto the Emerald City. Wow, we are in the rinse cycle big time and lasting throughout the day. So we'll keep checking the conditions for you, and we'll keep an eye on that forecast with team coverage. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Well, we continue to watch the weather from all across the Seattle area today.
And like many, even perhaps you at home, Mary Nam is keeping an eye on the storm from her home in Magnolia.
Windy out there.
Hey guys, it's Mary and Henry giving you a perspective of this windstorm happening in the city, right? It's not nearly as bad as the coast, but we keep waiting.
The coast.
Yes. He's going to repeat everything I'm saying. But you can see it's still pretty gusty. We haven't had any power outages quite yet. And fortunately, our light bulbs, they haven't flickered or anything like that. But I am a little concerned only because they keep saying that the worst is yet to come. And, well, we all know what happens when the power goes out. So hope everyone is staying inside. It's definitely an indoor kind of day.
Down.
Shoes on and down. Yeah, someone's going to go. Someone wants to go outside, and it's not going to happen today. See you guys later.
All right, just in case the power does go out, your cell phone could be a lifeline during the storm. T-Mobile has released some tips in order to make sure everyone can stay connected. So they say make sure your phone is fully charged and have a backup plan to that charge if the power does go out, like a car charger, perhaps a portable power charger. You want to conserve some of your battery life. You can do that by lowering the screen brighten and then limiting downloads. Also, you want to send a text message instead of calling if you can. Texts are more likely to get through during high usage periods. And if you have to make a call, keep it short so that you're not tying up some of those resources and keeping others from getting through.
All right, Verizon tells us they're prepared as well for this. In fact, they gave us a tour of the facility. The company says they have a major backup system in place that will make sure your service is not interrupted. We're told as long as they have fuel, which they do, their generator can power their batteries for weeks, actually.
You're looking at a room full of batteries, and these batteries are, I don't know, quadruple the size of your car battery, and there's dozens and dozens and dozens of them, so that when commercial power is lost, these immediately kick into action and power this whole facility. Okay.
All right, so it looks like they're covered. Make sure you keep your cell phone and keep it charged up as best you can, and a flashlight near you in case the power goes out in your neighborhood.
You have to be prepared, especially with all the warnings you've given us.
We have a lot going on here. Not only are we talking about wind warnings, but we're talking about high surf advisories along our ocean beaches. I mean, the list continues here, and we've been monitoring it all day. If you happen to leave the television and you go online to KOMOnews.com, literally at the top of that screen, we have everything that you need to know highlighted, how to get through the power outages, how to stay safe, and how to make sure that you are prepared throughout the rest of the afternoon, because we're just noticing some of these gusts in excess of 40, even close to 50 miles per hour through much of the afternoon. I mean, look at Everett now at 49. We've been dealing with 49-mile-per-hour gusts in Everett through much of the morning. 40 in Seattle, 24 in Olympia, 39 in Bremerton, and we're going 45-mile-per-hour gusts right now in Hoquiam. Again, high wind warning continues for Seattle until 6 p.m. Bellingham with 37-mile-per-hour gusts. Your high wind warning goes until 4 o'clock. And Snohomish County and throughout Sequim and Port Townsend, Admiralty Inlet, you're going until 10 p.m. It's not only the wind making the headlines, it is the pounding rain that is coming down right now along those 5 curves. Let me explain to you the different colors. The yellows, the oranges, certainly indicating that very heavy rain just outside of Spanaway and Puyallup. Pacific along the Valley Freeway as well, seeing that heavy rain. 405 along those S curves north into the Factoria, I-90, 405 interchange, also seeing that moderate rainfall, as is our friends across Bainbridge Island, across to Bremerton. You heard Lee earlier on the ferry. It is going to be a bumpy ferry ride from the Coleman Ferry Dock over to Bremerton and up through Silverdale and Paulsbo, too. Coastal communities also dealing with that moderate rain, as is Mason County. Right now, a good load of wet weather coming through across areas of Shelton, as well as Hood Canal. And well to the north end, Mount Vernon through Cedro, Woolley, and Bellingham, also seeing plenty of rain. Look at this camera. This is at 5:20. I'm going to step out of the way for just a moment so you can see the waves just crashing here, and this camera just rocking and rolling. Again, both hands on the steering wheel. Paris just informed me you have to have winds sustained at 50 miles per hour for 15 minutes for this bridge to close. It could possibly happen this afternoon. Again, Como News, your best friend. Of course, download our app as well through the afternoon. We'll keep you posted. I know some of you might get a little seasick looking at this camera, but right now we're looking at another shaky camera, and this one is atop the Columbia Tower looking towards Sodo, and it is cloudy, it is wet, it is 55 degrees, and our sustained wind right now in Seattle at 23 miles per hour. Bremerton, you're at 54, 56 in Olympia, very mild thanks to this warm front that continues to bring with it all of this rain. And again, as the winds start to shift direction, we could be noticing the strongest of that happening throughout much of the afternoon. Again, we're not making a light out of this. We are looking at these winds sustained now at close to 30 miles per hour in some locations, but gusting close to 60, and that could happen after 12 o'clock today, and certainly between that time frame of 1 to 3 p.m. Our future cast come later on tonight. Things do settle down a bit. We are going cloudy. We are going wet at times, but we'll start things off tomorrow morning rather foggy. Could be a bit breezy too. And then we start to maintain some of those dry conditions again as we start wrapping up the work week, which we can all certainly use a dry day around here. In the meantime, very wet, very windy, very mild, highs in the mid 50s. And here's what it looks like over the next several days, where we are looking at those temps in the upper 40s. So cooler air behind this front. It's going to bring down those snow levels a bit, but still a cause for concern is flooding. And Shannon O'Donnell's in the Weather Center, and she's going to have much more on the flood warnings, the watches, and all of the rivers that we have to watch for us coming up in just about 5 minutes.
Boy, November is really letting us have it so far, isn't it?
It is. All right, let's check in with Molly at the live desk. Well, we're just getting word that the Victoria Clipper has canceled its sailings in both directions today. No sailings for the Victoria Clipper between here and the island. And they do say that they let passengers know at 4 o'clock yesterday, but if for some reason you were planning to go on the Clipper today and you hadn't gotten that word, or expecting someone to be coming into town on the Clipper, those sailings aren't happening. They are providing buses to get people from one spot to the other if need be. If you were just going for pleasure, obviously you don't need to take the bus up there. Also, just wanted to let you know real quickly, Puget Sound Energy, 11,000 outages right now. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our storm coverage here. You know, on the water, conditions are going to be even more treacherous this afternoon with the strong winds picking up. Whitecaps are already battering our local ferries.
And we've seen a lot of that firsthand here. Como's Lee Stoll is live in Mukilteo with a look at just how much worse it is expected to get, and hope you're holding on, Lee.
We've already lost one hat between myself and my photographer this morning, so this one is welded to my head. I'm getting a sea spray facial this morning. So as we've been saying, just for a precaution for everybody out here, the crews on the ferry are actually putting these blocks in and keeping the line of the front cars all the way back by about 2 or 3 car lengths, because take a look at what we're going to be heading into. We're going to cross over to Clinton here. We're going to leave the dock in about 20 seconds or so. But it is really rough seas. Now, we're going to swing very wide to the left. This is our 4th round trip that we're taking this morning. There's 2 reasons for that. One, we don't really want to go against the current. Right now, it is turning, and it has been going with the wind all morning long, which has actually been a blessing. If you thought these rides were rough, take a look at what we saw earlier today. It's actually going to get a lot worse later on this afternoon. But we did shoot some video from our earlier crossings this morning to give you a sense of how rough these rides have been. It is like very rough turbulence on a plane. So we're going to swing very wide to the left. That is also going to help the crews kind of carry with the current back over to the tight slip on Clinton. And then Whidbey Island acts as a bit of a wind barrier to protect the ferries as they are crossing. But there is a lot of debris in the water as well. These whitecaps are ripping logs downstream, and we've just been seeing a lot in the water. And if you just heard that boom underneath my feet, it sounds like we may have hit something which has been pretty consistent, or we're just crashing over these waves as we're simply just leaving the dock right now from Mukilteo. We're not even out into the middle of the water itself. So back out here live again. The run from Clinton is over at the slip right now, and they're going to come this direction. So for safety, these ferries are keeping a very wide distance between each other. If you can see, birds are trying to fly across and into the headwinds of the water right here, and they are not moving very quickly. Pretty soon this one's probably going to try and give up. But again, some whitecaps around here, and unfortunately all of these winds are going to pick up. We're expecting them to peak at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. 35 knots. Those are gale force winds. So again, as we've been telling people, if you have to take these ferries later on this evening, expect for an even bumpier ride than what we're seeing right now. I'll just leave you with this shot for here.
And it's awfully slow going on the roadways. We've had a series of problems, and most of our problems are isolated in King County. As you can see, the map is lit up with lots of red and green, but our newest crash that we've been monitoring for the last couple of seconds now is down in Bellevue, northbound 405, just after I-90. We have a crash there blocking that HOV lane. A heavy aid response is now unseen, but this is also a good reminder. We're going to see a series of crashes throughout the day, and if you see a crash, move over if you can do so safely. That not only saves you, the driver, and make sure you get where you need to go safely, but it also ensures that our first responders can do what they need to clear the scene. And we're already starting to see a little bit of a backup approaching where this crash is, as drivers are trying to make their way beyond where these roads are awfully slick. We're seeing lots of ponding, and that too is giving us still a pretty significant drive times. We've cooled down from the early morning slog, but you can see that drive from Tacoma to Seattle at 46 minutes, so it's about average. And if you're trying to get from Everett to Seattle, you're now starting to cool off, and that drive is sitting at 33 minutes.
All right, Paris. So now what we have to deal with is the cloudy skies, the rain that we're all going to be dealing with over the next couple of hours, as well as that wind. We're going with a high wind warning once again through 4 o'clock on the northwest interior. And we're also looking at that high wind warning that's in effect for Seattle and Tacoma through at least 6 p.m. Look at these peak wind gusts. This just coming in to the KOMO News Weather Center. 53 mile per hour gusts in Edmonds, 51 in Bremerton, 55 in Hoquiam, Everett at 53, and North Bend, we're going with 51. Magnolia also in the mid-50s when we're looking at these peak wind gusts. High wind warning continues once again through Snohomish County and throughout Admiralty Inlet, that until about 10 p.m. Shannon O'Donnell now with more on what is going on with the rain as well as the flooding concerns. Shannon, good morning.
That's right. Good morning to you. And really, that's the problem, this 1-2 punch, because we saw winds similar to these in strength. Remember that in August when it was so gusty around here, and we certainly had some damage from that storm, but it was only occasionally wet through the month of August. Through November, it has been just a deluge pretty much from start to finish, and most of us have picked up in about half the month, in the first 15-16 days of the month, what we normally see throughout all of November. So the ground is extremely saturated. From the 13th, remember Friday the 13th when things really started getting interesting around here? Since that time through yesterday, the 4-day rain total through that span, plenty, 4.5 inches or so around downtown Seattle. Hoquiam nearly at 5, and Olympia has been the real bullseye. The southwest interior from the Willapa Hills into Thurston County has picked up so much rainfall, nearly 7 inches, and yeah, continuing to count. Look at some of the rain that we have picked up just in the last several hours since midnight. On top of all of that, another ½ an inch in the gauge in Olympia. Bremerton just getting hammered by the heavy rain at times today with nearly an inch already, and you can see higher amounts as well near the ocean beaches. So that on top of what we've already seen is really leading to the problem, because we have these strong wind gusts, the saturated ground. Remember, the trees were already so stressed throughout the spring and the summer because it was so dry, and now we have flooded the ground, and so you can bring whole trees down in this sort of a scenario with winds at these speeds. For those of you along the rivers, you're used to this as well. When we see these atmospheric rivers coming in and loads of rainfall, they tend to go up pretty quickly. We just wrapped up that round of flooding from all of the heavy rain this weekend, and here we go again. So several more added to the list over the last couple of hours. The Stillaguamish running high in Arlington, the Skykomish at Gold Bar also under a flood warning, the Snoqualmie River at both the falls, and now Incarnation as well under a flood warning. And a few more added to the list, the Chehalis at Porter, the Skokomish River at Potlatch seeing major flooding right now, and no question about why. We've seen so much rainfall again in that bullseye spot between Bremerton and Hood Canal back in toward Olympia, and now a new river under a flood warning, the Elwha at the McDonald Bridge. As we head into the next 24 hours, both the wind and the rain do start to subside, and so the rivers will start to crest and come back down. But over the next couple of hours, just for most of us, the impact will be difficulty in driving and probably several more power outages to go as we head into the bulk of the winds this afternoon.
All right, Shan, thanks so much. And here's what we need you to do. Again, with all of that information with the flooding, go on to the App Store, and this is what the KOMO News weather app looks like. Search for KOMO WX. You can track the storm along with the rest of us here at the forecast team.
Yeah, good call there. All right, we continue our live storm team coverage back outside in downtown Seattle.
KOMO's Cale Thompson was on a rooftop 8 floors up earlier, now back down on ground level for a comparison of those two conditions at South Lake Union. Cale?
And I got to tell you, it's really deceiving because down here, ground level, it doesn't seem so bad. But let me point out where we were. About 6, 7, 8 stories up on the roof, it is noticeably different. I will tell you, though, back down here on the ground, when it does blow, and it has blown a couple of times, this is what you get. The trees all start to shed their leaves, and look what happens. They all pile up down here. This is going to clog storm drains, and that could be an issue when it comes to street flooding. I mean, this is a lot to move and to have to try to get through. Where we are in South Lake Union is actually one of the high points. We're up a little bit higher than, say, Westlake, which is just down that direction a little bit. I was down there earlier. Got to tell you, it's usually very, very busy. This morning, not so much. I even popped into a coffee shop, talked to a barista. She said it's dead. And she says it's likely because of the weather. A lot of people we think are actually working from home didn't come in because they've been paying attention to the forecast. And in a city like Seattle, where we're used to the rain and the wind, guys, that's saying something.
Yeah, a good idea to telecommute today because everybody knew this was coming.
Would say so.
Yeah. All right, Cale. Hey, we even reached out to the Space Needle to see how they will handle this storm. They said certain doors on the observation deck are closed, and they'll make a judgment call on whether to close the whole outdoor area. We're told the elevators can't operate until sustained winds hit 70 miles an hour. At that point, they would just shut the Needle down. But winds over 30 miles an hour, so elevators can still be moving, but they go up and down at a much slower speed. All right, we'll be right back.
And welcome back. We're just getting word of delays. If you're traveling out of SeaTac today, some of the major cities and hubs have some significant delays because of weather in other parts of the country. If you're heading to Denver, 44 minutes late. If you want to get to Chicago, on average, because of the weather there, the delays leaving SeaTac will be around an hour and a half. And there's just a ripple effect across the country with all of this. And Minneapolis is seeing delays right now of departures running about 20 minutes behind.
Thanks to blizzard conditions in places like Denver, for example. Well, Kitsap County is really taking some hits right now.
It's raining hard, and a number of areas are taking some real punches from the wind that keeps increasing, especially those gusts. KOMO's Denise Whitaker is in Port Orchard with evidence right now of both. Denise?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'm going to start with the water. Take a look at this stream here. I have really watched it rise in the last 2 hours that I've been out here. Definitely a lot of water flowing, and it's kind of, you can tell, seeping into the backyard here of Matt and Andrea Ziegler's house, which now they have a man with a chainsaw up on top of their roof because, as you can see, a tree fell from the nearby lot and crushed their house today. This happened just after 5 o'clock this morning. Matt took me inside and gave me a full tour earlier, and the tree guy showed up a little while ago, and he's been trying to clear everything off. With all of the branches gone from the top of the roof, you can really see the damage there. That's actually the second floor of the house. It hit both their second floor and their first floor. And here's the kicker on this one. Matt and Andrea just were completing a $30,000 remodel on the inside with all new flooring, all new paint. Now, in many rooms, they are going to have to start over. And this, unfortunately, with the winds picking up, may repeat itself in the area. I know Seth was just saying 51 miles per hour in Bremerton. I saw 40-mile-per-hour gusts in Gig Harbor, where I was earlier today. So the winds are definitely here, and the rain is still continuing. It's really a wet mess out here, guys.
It looks like it, and that's only going to get worse. Look at this, just rain everywhere on the cameras.
It is indeed. We've been talking about rising rivers, whipping winds, trees already coming down. We have the force of the KOMO forecast team that's on top of it, trying to get you through this, get your family through it, with much more on what we can expect throughout today. Keep it right here. We're back in just 2 minutes.
And welcome back. As the storm picks up in the Puget Sound region, a lot of people posting their pictures on social media. I've been going through all of them. Let's take a look right now. Pull up Live 18 for me, and I'll flip through some of these pictures for you that we're seeing. This, boy, that looks like Alki, doesn't it? We know what the winds look like when they blow the waves around there. Some wind blowing in downtown Seattle. There's a picture at Green Lake where some branches are down into the water. A tree fell, blocking in some people at a business. We were told nobody was hurt there. And the person who put this picture out said, stuck on the wrong side of the Hood Canal Bridge trying to get into Seattle. It has been a messy day out there. As I said, I'm looking through all those pictures. Be sure to tweet me if you have some good photos of the weather that we're experiencing.
And we're monitoring the South Sound, where we're looking at this camera shot down at Olympia along I-5 and Capitol Boulevard. And one thing that we're noticing, lots of ponding. So if you can avoid standing water, do so. Don't drive and speed up. Definitely just take your foot off that gas and just let yourself kind of cruise through. Could make for lots of hydroplaning. And also make sure your headlights are on, because that is something that can alert drivers to where you're going, because we're starting to see limited visibility in some areas. And if you're making your way out of the South Sound or getting into Tacoma, we're starting to still monitor some slow speeds as well. Lots of heavy rain in the area. And if you're crossing that Hood Canal Bridge, you cannot do so. State Route 104 is closed until further notice due to high winds. So that is one area that you need to avoid for the time being.
Well, we know the roads are taking the brunt of this storm. We're reading as many as 13 crashes in Snohomish County alone from Trooper Francis. But now WashDOT's giving us an update as well.
Justin, you with us there?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Good morning, you guys. We are looking at a lot of incidents right now, primarily minor collisions, but we also have some ponding on the roadways, and we advise drivers just to use caution, extra caution. Of course, we deal with rain quite often here, but this is a 1-2 punch of rain and wind, so not only drive carefully for rain conditions, but also for wind conditions, especially if you are in a wind-prone area like one of the bridges. You know, use both hands on the steering wheel if you have to go out and travel right now, and probably want to use extra caution if you're driving in a larger vehicle like a semi-truck or maybe a box truck or even one of those larger SUVs, because they tend to have some additional difficulties in high winds. And not only if you're driving one of those, but if you're passing one of those, you got to remember they have difficulty controlling sometimes in the high winds, so you want to be careful if you're another vehicle passing one of these larger cars.
All right, Justin, thank you. Certainly good advice, because you've got the winds and then you've got ponding in some of our roadways there. Kind of a double whammy if you're driving to deal with it this hour.
Yeah, all right. Let's get to Seth and Steve Poole now to break it all down for us of what's happening now and into this afternoon.
Yeah, we'll continue our coverage right here on KOMO News and all of our KOMO News platforms. Steve Poole now, of course, in. And boy, we have those high wind warnings that are posted up and down Puget Sound.
Yeah, no question about it. And this looks like it's going to last for a while. The strength of this is what really is so impressive to me. I mean, I've seen a lot of storms come through over the years, but this one has a lot of sustainability, and that's something we're going to be watching pretty closely.
We're breaking down these high wind warnings for you. It'll expire at the Northwest Interior at 4 p.m. Seattle and Tacoma 6 o'clock, but only getting worse for Snohomish County and through Admiralty Inlet. Will expire at 10 tonight. We'll talk much more about the forecast and when things will calm down next. All right, Seth Wayne here with Steve Poole, and we continue to look at the severe weather rolling through western Washington. First off, let's talk about those winds. Again, the high wind warning continues through a majority of our region through at least the evening hours. And this is what I want to bring you up to date with. These wind gusts that will be on your screen at 49 miles per hour in Everett, 40 now in Seattle. Again, over the next couple of hours, we could gust to about 60 miles per hour.
And of course, you come to the rainfall, you can see how much we continue to bring into the area here. All those areas that you see, the yellows and the oranges, that's the heavy stuff. Here's a look at the rainfall so far today. Kind of puts it in perspective. And you know what? We're not even finished yet.
Exactly. Where you are commuting on I-5, it is a bathtub you're going through. This is at North Gateway on I-5. All this heavy rain continues to come down. Our camera rocking and rolling across the Columbia Tower looking towards Soto. And those temps now very mild. And we're going to hold on to that mild air through much of the day. This warm front really packing a punch, Steve.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that river of rain that we so often refer to, that's going to continue to be the case for a while. We will get a bit of a break, but it's going to take a while.
Daytime highs today in the mid-50s will calm down over the next couple days. Good news there. By Friday, it'll be dry. We can all use a dry day. What do you say?
Oh, can't we? Definitely.
Yes, exactly. KOMO News at 11 returns after this short break.
Hey, Let's quickly show you around the area again. A reminder, high wind warning in the interior till 4 p.m. in Seattle till 6 p.m. And look at the rain coming down in the Soto area on Century Lake.
And then take a look at some of the waves blowing around 520, the camera moving around there as well.
Wow, I mean, that just shows you the brunt of the wind that we're going to have sustained for hours. Here's how it looks in the Mukilteo area. It's some real rough rides if you're going to be on the ferries this afternoon, because that wind's really whipping out in the Puget Sound area.
Tune in right here for First News at 4 o'clock. Steve Poole will be giving updates all afternoon and always online at KomoNewsRadio.com.
All right, have a good one, everybody.
Stay safe.